All right, welcome back to Volante. Let's just jump right on in. These are the top reasons why I believe that Ripple is going to win the SEC case. Let's go. All right, for some of you that aren't aware, that the SEC submitted a case against Ripple back in 2020. And who was the person that submitted the case? There's none other than Jay Clayton, right here. Jay Clayton, the ex-SEC chair. And he actually submitted the case out on Ripple the day before he left office. But what the question is, where did he go after he left the SEC? Electric Capital, a crypto-focused venture capital that raised $1 billion for two new funds earlier this year. His named former Securities and Exchange Commission Jay Clayton as an advisor. Look at that, an advisor at a crypto-focused venture capital firm. And now he's part of the FDIC, but that's another story. But the other reasons why I want to go into this is because if we want to look at the members of Ripple and where they all came from. First of all, let's just say Ripple is part of what? The World Economic Forum. And we all know the World Economic Forum runs the world. And also on top of that, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO, is part of the World Economic Forum. So he's shaking hands with Klaus Schwab, shaking hands with BlackRock. Let's jump into the members of Ripple as well. On top of that, other board members. If we look at, I think it's named Anna Manuel. I can't say 100%, but I don't want to butcher it, so we'll just leave it at that. But she was a co-founder and principal along with former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, former National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley, and former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates in Rice, Hadley, Gates, and Manuel LLC, a strategic consulting firm that helps U.S. companies navigate international markets. Earlier in her career, Manuel was an attorney at WilmerHale, working on corporate governance, international and Supreme Court cases, and represented special committees of major corporate boards before the U.S. Congress, Department of Justice, and the SEC. Ooh, weird. So if she was a part of all this, why would she go to Ripple? Why would she become a board member of Ripple? Does she know where it's going? Let's keep moving. Craig Phillips. Craig Phillips brings over 35 years of private and public sector leadership experience to Ripple, having held senior roles at BlackRock, Morgan Stanley, and Credit Suisse. Most recently, Craig served as counselor to Secretary of the Treasury, where he oversaw domestic finance. That's a pretty big feat right there, huh? Moving on. None other than, a lot of you probably know Rosie Rios, right? She was the 43rd Treasurer of the United States. She actually made money in a sense. You can see her actual signature on the $100 bill, and other ones probably on top of that. But obviously, she minted the last one. As you listen to a lot of her messages, she basically says, "But the train's left the station. This is the new currency that's coming." She's well aware of it. That's why she moved to Ripple. There's no reason for why she wouldn't be here, right? If crypto was bad, if blockchain was bad, why would she come here? She knows. She has the back end of everything. She understands that, right? Then we have Michael Warren, is managing director of Albright Stonebridge Group. He has over 20 years of experience advising clients on international growth strategies, stakeholder management issues, and economic and geopolitical issues affecting global markets. Prior to that, Warren served in the administrators to two presidents. Warren, and senior advisor of the White House Presidential Personnel Office during President Barack Obama's first term. In 2010, Obama appointed Warren to the board of directors of the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, where he now serves on the audit committee. During the Clinton administration, he was executive director of the National Economic Council and served in the office of the Secretary of the U.S. Department. So these people all came from points of Congress in Federal Reserve type situations, right? Treasury, Federal Reserve, Congress, and they moved to Ripple. I mean, really? They know something that's going on, right? All right, moving on. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of former Treasury official Michael Barr, right? He was the former Treasury. He moved to Ripple in, what was this? This was back in 2015. He went to Ripple. But then shortly after that, as of recently, he's no longer there. But where else did he go now? He is now Federal Reserve. He went to the Federal Reserve. Okay, so he's now vice chair of supervision. All these people are connecting dots on the back end. And these people are creating the new currency behind the scenes and telling us one thing and doing the other, right? Moving on. Volante. Volante and Ripple are partners, right? Volante Volpe Ripple processor module speeds integration to the Ripple global settlement network. Volante's Volpe Ripple processor module simplifies the connection to Ripple's near real-time payment and settlement network. Phenomenal, right? Ripple is the new distributed ledger-based global real-time settlement mechanism. It offers banks a faster and more cost-effective mechanism to make international payments in any fiat currency with associated settlement. What's so special about that? Volante partners with the Federal Reserve. FedNow services will be using Volante. Volante partners with Ripple. Ripple will be the new means of currency. Let's keep moving. Look at this beautiful Ripple partners running around. Bank of America. Ooh, that's a big one. Bank of America. Bank of America. Ooh, files patent for settlement system. Bank of America files patent for settlement system citing Ripple. Big. That's big because what? Bank of America is not just Bank of America. It is the second largest bank in the world. Okay, It has 3 trillion assets, almost 31 billion operating net income, and 27.5 net income. It's just below. Look at JP Morgan's number 1, Bank of America number 2. That is huge. And guess who invests into Bank of America? Number 1 investment they have in their Warren Buffett. You guessed it. All right. These are some of the major reasons why I believe that crypto is going nowhere and Ripple will win the case. These are just some of the connections that I'm seeing behind the scenes here that as we go through the years and this case just lingers on. And I believe there's more connections in the back end, like there with Vanguard, Ripple's with Vanguard, SBI Remit, Accenture, BlackRock. I mean, there's just so many connections. And then you look at the in between, like all the technologies and how they're interwired. You go to ISO 20022 and their standardization between that, because right now, like one of the biggest problems right now we have from a banking perspective is liquidity, right? Liquidity is the biggest issue. And that's what this solves, because if you look at it and you look at two banks, right? You have Bank A and Bank B. Alice wants to transfer Bob, let's just say $100. Alice is in Bank A and Bank B. All right. So all that's really being transferred is a messaging system. It's just a message saying, hey, this we need to credit Bob over here $100 and we got to deduct $100. Okay. So no money is actually physically being sent. So right now they have to have like an accounts, I think pretty much like an account base set up with each other to say, okay, we're going to debit this from us and credit. And then they credit their own bank over here. Bank B credits it saying, okay, and then we pay Bob and then they take it away from Alice. That's one option right there. But what if there's two banks? They don't do financial transactions between each other too often. So what if they have another bank in the middle? And what if they have to do a connection in between? Okay, so Bank A has to go to, now they have to do a transaction between these two, a messaging transaction, a debit credit, and then over here, debit credit. So there's all these systems in play. Whereas Ripple, you're going to have an actual token that you're going to have, and it's going to just be sent to wherever, and then it's going to be right into their deposit, right? It's going to take it out of your bin. You have, let's just say 100,000 XRP and you got to send 20,000. Boom, it's done. You don't have to be debiting, crediting, anything like that. It's liquid. It's right over there. And then they just have to transfer it over to whatever currency that they would be in if it's a cross-border payment too. Because the cheapest way right now, as you've heard before, Brad Garlinghouse even said this in one of his messages, that the cheapest way to get money from A to B, like across the border, is to actually get on a plane and physically fly it there. That's cheaper than transferring $100 million by train, planes, and automobiles. No, I'm just, you know what I mean, right? So, in short, these are the reasons why I believe that Ripple will win the case. And shortly after that, in my opinion, it will take off. I'm not going to say it's going to blow up, but it'll take off. And eventually you'll see our systems in the back end will be changing through the blockchain, distributed ledger, cryptocurrencies. So stay tuned. We'll talk about more. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you very much.